David, good to see you. This is a horrible set of circumstances this close to the Christmas holiday here. In the box you see right there, that is a live picture there in Magdeburg. What are you hearing? What have you heard?
Well, like you said, there's not much information yet. German authorities do suspect. They said there are elements of this attack that seem to suggest that it was a terrorist attack. The identity of the attacker makes things complicated. As you noted, he's a Saudi national who came to Germany in 2006 as an asylum seeker. But he's not a religious man himself. He seems to be, according to Wall Street Journal, an anti-Islam activist, an anti-religious activist, someone who's constantly warning about the dangers of Islamization in Germany. He's expressed support for the AfD. He has talked about the dangers that the kind of increased religiosity in the Middle East poses to minorities, to women. So it's a complicated picture of a man who has complained that German authorities are trying to silence him because he's expressed opposition to the Islamic religion rather than someone. I think in 2016 there was a similar attack in Germany by a Tunisian who had different motivations. I think he was a rejected asylum seeker. So it's unclear what motivated this man specifically to attack a Christmas market, given he doesn't have motivations or his background doesn't necessarily suggest that he would be inclined to do so.
Yeah, of course, we know that he was apprehended at the scene. We don't know if he is, experiencing any bodily injury from the crash itself or whether or not he's being treated at a hospital, though he is undergoing questioning right now. That's what we are told. You brought up the 2016 Berlin attack that was very similar in nature. Maybe the motivations were divergent and were quite different here. But this is a method of attack that we have seen all across Europe in the last 10 to 15 years. This, death by van, death by car here. And we're seeing it yet again here, motivations aside, in yet another German city around Christmas time. I just have to know, the coincidental harm marks should be acknowledged.
Of course. And look, if you intend to cause harm, there's little that's easier to get your hands on in any place, right, than a car. We see this also in Israel, where people with terrorist motivations or nationalistic motivations, as the Israeli police and security services often like to euphemistically call it, will engage in car ramming attacks. It's a very easy method. You can create mass casualties with the method, and all you need is a driver's license. You don't need to go through the processes that I imagine are more complicated in Germany of, say, obtaining a firearm. You don't need to, if you use a knife, it's something that perhaps if you intend to harm several people, it's not as effective. It's an effective method. It's something that you can get your hands on very easily, unfortunately.
Yeah, and David, I wanted to ask too, because you're talking about the German political situation. I'm not an expert in German politics. But Olaf Scholz's coalition essentially fell apart last week, and there was a vote of no confidence taken, presumably setting up elections sometime in early 2025 here. So he could well be out of his way in the prime minister's office there in Berlin, and so we might see new leadership in Germany. How does that tie into this? I don't want to draw connections or ties if they're not there. Are they?
Hard to say. I imagine some people who have criticized German authorities for not being stringent enough when it comes to bringing in refugees, immigration policy, will use this and run with it and say, well, look, we've been telling you all along, and here's another example of why this government and this line of thinking and kind of the, as it's been called, the neoliberal outlook when it comes to immigration policy has failed. We need to restore security to our streets. We see this current across Europe. We see this current in France, this anti-immigrant orientation that is fueled by attacks such as this, the 2016 attack in Tunisia, the several attacks that occurred in France that were carried out by people who had expressed loyalty to ISIS. So I think it will dovetail with that, and it will help fuel it.
Yeah, we're just taking some looks at the scene, and these scenes are just so chaotic, and they're so traumatic and they're so grisly. And we lost our live picture there in Magdeburg, unfortunately. But I wanted to ask, too, when these investigations proceed and when we learn more and more details, potential motivation may come out. I would imagine that's going to be the line of questioning from investigators, about why this individual, who's apparently a Saudi national, he's been in Germany since 2006. So he did not just get there, why he did this and what his motivations are. At least 2 individuals are deceased right now. Many, many more are injured. And we're hearing from a lot of German officials, including in Washington, at the German embassy, the foreign minister there, Anna Baerbock, saying the images from Magdeburg shake me to my core for families and friends who wanted to spend time together at the Christmas market. Nothing is as it was. My deepest sympathy goes out to the victims and their families. I thank the first responders. I believe we also have a statement in from Vice President-elect J.D. Vance on this situation. He says, our prayers go to the people affected by this terrible attack on a Christmas market in Germany. What a ghastly attack so close to Christmas. David, well, one of the questions reporters ask investigators, if they knew this individual ahead of time, that's usually, the case in a lot of these unfortunate circumstances that I've covered here. That's the one question. That's the first question. Did law enforcement know who this was before they carried this out?
My understanding is that they did not. Again, as you said, he's been in Germany since 2006, and it seems like he hasn't necessarily posed that kind of a risk. He suggests, or at least posts that he's posted on his social media in recent days, suggests that he was persecuted by German authorities for his opposition, again, to theocracy, to his criticism of Islam. So whether he was on a terror watch list or some kind of watch list for someone who could be suspected of this attack, it doesn't seem, according to reports, that he was.